Thank you, Wael, for that. Just a slight correction. I'm not making the code of conduct, but I'll explain that in my speech. So as a rule of thumb, military dictators and military coup makers generally tend to gag the media. So it's ironic in my country, Pakistan, that it was a military dictator who opened the floodgates of electronic media and allowed a large number of TV channels in 2000. However, freedom of expression it's a shady cliche when it comes to covering certain topics, but because of the time restriction, first I'm going to give you a snapshot of the effect of the media boom that's taken place in Pakistan. Firstly, there's more information and misinformation. Secondly, the media is free in its true sense only when you do not implicate the state or you do not invite the anger of religious extremists. Due to the high rate of journalists who have been killed, human rights groups have called Pakistan as the most dangerous country for journalists to work in. And lastly, stories other than terrorism, militancy, and bomb blasts generally don't make it to the headlines, and they're not considered mainstream news, especially in international media. So Pakistan, due to various reasons, including the rise of militancy, has become a hotspot in terms of a very palpable environment of breaking news. So you see a lot on the news now, but you also see sensationalism, and you've also seen irresponsibility. There have been those who have been the victims of this freedom. Journalists who try to hunt down stories and are critical of the government are subject to coercion. And sometimes that coercion can be deadly, as was the case of Saleem Shahzad, who was a writer for Hong Kong's-based Times Asia Online. He wrote about the militant attack that took place on a naval base in Karachi and had planned to reveal more. Interestingly, though, right after that, some very prominent and respected journalists came out and spoke about their personal experience of being harassed at the hands of intelligence units. But this is an example of a very seesaw nature of censorship. It's consistently inconsistent, and the lives of those who are outspoken are not secure. The social media has also faced its share of censorship. In 2006, Blogspot was banned. Facebook was banned in connection to blasphemous material. In 2007, during the lawyers' movement, it was a movement to reinstate our deposed Chief Justice. Some TV channels were blocked. And recently, just 2 days ago, in fact, just saw news that anyone using internet in Pakistan will probably be, everything that you follow or check online will be checked by the government. That's new news. But it's not just virtual domains that get censored in connection or in the name of religion. In a horrific incident this year, our provincial governor, Salman Taseer, was gunned down by his security guard in broad daylight. He did this because he felt that Salman Taseer had committed blasphemy. This kind of divided the population, where many hailed this assassin as an Islamic hero. And then there were those who thought that what had happened was a brutal violation of one's right to life, and in this case, to justice. In Pakistan, you have to understand it's a country that's, for most of its life, been run by the military. Within it is a very strong intelligence agency that is much feared and is unaccountable. So journalists can find themselves stuck between insurgent elements and government security forces, where they face extreme levels of intimidation. And because the media is dominated by terrorism-related stories, there's very little space for other stories that give people a more balanced view of what's going on in Pakistan. So you would think that this whole situation of media in Pakistan, there must be a code of conduct. Well, there isn't. Media companies have to realize and need to distinguish between objective reporting and editorial comment. They need to give balanced and wider content coverage, and governments need to allow journalists to cover stories without being killed or kidnapped. What I've just said is a desire, but I want to be part of that process to get stakeholders to come to the table and come up with a workable code of conduct for journalists. But as of right now, as a journalist, as a working journalist, I can make people take notice of it by writing about it or making a podcast. But us all together here, one young world journalists, we need to use our abilities to cover stories so that international media is reliable and authentic, so that all of this impact here, we can push it beyond this conference. Thank you.